to tighten up. Yeah, I woke up feeling like it might be a good day to get it done. That's right. Oh, the stadium is just like my second house. Now I'm two-tone talking, they can't shut my mouth. I woke up feeling like it was time to tighten up. Yeah. I woke up feeling like it was time to tighten up. Oh my goodness. Can you feel it in the air? Can you feel it in the air, everybody? It is week 1. It's time. It's time. This Sunday, the Tennessee Titans will take the field in Chicago, Illinois for a game that matters, for a game that will count. It is Titans-Bears this Sunday. This Sunday. We made it. We made it. And it's going to be a big week. I mean, this is going to be, you tell me a week that could possibly be better than this one. Thursday night, we've got Ravens-Chiefs. We got that first of all, and I know it's going to be tough to see Derrick Henry wearing that awful purple, but hey, Ravens-Chiefs, I'm going to be watching. And then Friday, it keeps on going because we got Eagles-Packers on Friday. Then Saturday, there's college football all day. And it's Sunday, NFL football all day. And then Monday, we got Monday Night Football with the 49ers and the Jets. I mean, come on. You tell me a better week that you could possibly think of. We made it, everybody. And so on today's episode, episode 99 of the Two-Tone Talk by God pod, we are going to be doing a little something, little something interesting. You know, whenever a season ends, whenever a football season ends, people always come on and do their season in review, where they go through and they look at every detail of the season, what went wrong, what went right. Today, I'm going to be doing my off-season in review for the Tennessee Titans. Off-season in review. We're going to be looking back before we get this season underway. We are going to look at what brought us to this point with these Tennessee Titans and why we're all so excited. And then at the end, I'm going to be making my picks for the playoffs. I already told you on Friday, an unforgettable episode this past Friday. I already told you which 7 teams I have making it from each conference. I already told you who I had winning each division, who I had taking the wild card spots. But today at the end of the episode, I'm going to be telling you who I predict to win playoff games and who I expect to get to the Super Bowl and who I am predicting to win the Super Bowl. We're going to do that at the end of the episode. But first, let's do an off-season in review for the Tennessee Titans. You know, I've been doing these clips on the channel, on the Two-Tone Talk channel, where I go through and I watch these clips of the national media, or sometimes it's the national media, sometimes it's another YouTuber, podcaster, who is, in my opinion, disrespecting the Tennessee Titans. And I upload a few of those clips a week. Sometimes it is, the Nick Wrights of the world. Sometimes it's, a former player who has a podcast now. Sometimes it's another YouTuber, whatever. And I'll go through and I'll hear their thoughts on the Titans, and I will give my thoughts on their thoughts of the Titans. And I've been doing those clips for a couple of months, and usually it's pretty infuriating. But the 2 comments that I get more than any from Titans haters is, Brad, do you really, can you not take any criticism of the Titans? That's the first question I get. Can you not take any criticism of the Tennessee Titans at all? And the answer to that is absolutely. Absolutely, I can take criticism of the Tennessee Titans. Absolutely. There have been clips, and some of you that have watched a lot of those, I have watched clips where I watched one where they predicted the Titans to finish last in the division. They predicted them to win 4 or 5 games, but I felt like their criticism was valid. They said, hey, it's a first-time head coach. It's going to take him a little while to get his bearings. It's a young offensive line. It's going to take him a little bit to adjust. Will Levis is a huge question mark. This is his first time going into a season as an NFL starting quarterback. It's going to take him a little bit to adjust. A lot of new pieces. That's going to take him a little bit to get on the same page. It's a lot of question marks. And you know what? That's valid. I can take that, okay? But what I have found this offseason in particular is that a lot of the criticisms about the Titans are just not particularly fair, in my opinion. A lot of the doubts about the Titans going into this season are unfair. The other comment that I always get from people is, Brad, do you really believe that the Titans are going to like make it to the Super Bowl this year? Do you really believe, like, do you think the Titans are just the best team in the league? And the answer to that is absolutely not. If you listen to what I've said, I have repeatedly said, I don't expect one person to predict the Titans to go to the Super Bowl. I don't predict one person to even predict the Titans to make the playoffs or win the AFC South or anything like that, because there are a lot of question marks, okay? The issue that I have with the analysis of the Titans this offseason, and this is where I'll kind of start my offseason in review. It all started with the firing of Mike Vrabel. And I've said it before, this is not an anti-Vrabel podcast or channel. I have nothing against Mike Vrabel. We had some good times with Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel's a good coach, and I suspect he will land somewhere next season as a head coach in this league, and rightfully so. All right? By the way, be sure to click the like button if you're watching on YouTube. We got a lot more viewers than likers right now. But anyway, it all started with the firing of Mike Vrabel and the coverage of that. Because the coverage of that, I felt like, was so uninformed, so just making the Titans the butt of the joke. You all remember. The Titans are idiots. What are they thinking? They just fired one of the best coaches in the league, the best coach they've ever had. What? The Titans are idiots. The people running this organization are fools. What? They're not going to be anything without Vrabel. Everything they've ever accomplished that was good was because of Vrabel. This organization sucks outside of Vrabel. That was what we heard from every show, every analyst. And I will still say to this very moment, that is so uninformed and not fair. It's ridiculous. I told you a moment ago, is Vrabel a good coach? Yes. Did we have some good times with Vrabel? Yes. We made it to the AFC Championship game. We were a #1 seed in the AFC a few years ago. There were some good times with Vrabel. But as the old saying goes, what have you done for me lately? Now, was some of this John Robinson's fault? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, we're not going to clear John Robinson of any blame, but we're not going to clear Mike Vrabel of any blame either. The Titans offense has been unwatchable these last 2 seasons. Unwatchable. And like, we're talking about an offense that has been so painfully predictable for 2 years. Even when it made no sense to do certain things, they kept doing it. We're going to keep handing it off up the middle on first down. We're going to keep handing it off up the middle on second down. We're going to keep putting ourselves in third and long so that our quarterback has no choice but to get sacked because our offensive line's one of the worst in the league. This stubbornness that we've seen to hire guys and keep guys on staff that there were better options out there. I didn't have anything against Tim Kelly as an offensive coordinator, but there were better options out there, and we just went with Tim Kelly because he was the convenient in-house hire. I don't have a dang thing against Shane Bowen. Shane Bowen's a good defensive coordinator, but he got hired because he was an in-house guy that Vrabel knew and could make into what he wanted. And listen, if that's the way Vrabel wants to do things, that's whatever, but it's also a reason that I believe he didn't get hired anywhere by one of the other 8 teams looking for a coach this offseason. To act like Vrabel was just great. I said it then, I'll say it now. The media did not like Vrabel as much as they liked the idea of Vrabel. This former New England Patriot. He was there during the dynasty. Oh, he's funny in his interviews. He's a football guy. He's a big muscular linebacker. And he's got these funny facial expressions on the sideline, and he takes no nonsense from anybody. They loved that idea of like, oh man, he's an old school football guy. How many old school football guys do the Titans need to bring in? I mean, Munchak, Malarkey. How many of these guys do we have to bring in here who are going to run the ball 50 times a game and try to beat somebody 13-10? How many times do we need to see that? Okay, I've said this before too. Vrabel was the most Titans head coach ever. Like, former linebacker, old school, wants to play the game slow, wants to play the game boring, wants to play the game ugly. Like, hey, you can win some games like that, but you can't win enough games like that. I'll just go and tell you. You can't win enough. Is it important to be able to run the ball? Sure. Is it important to be able to stop the run? Sure. But the way the Titans were doing things was unwatchable. And so I felt like the media coverage of that was what started this snowball of me being fed up with it. It was just not fair. You can say Vrabel's a good coach and he'll land somewhere while also acknowledging that he was not the right guy for the Tennessee Titans right now. In my entire fandom of the Tennessee Titans, which goes back to whenever I was like 7 years old, the Titans have always been the same kind of team. Physical, yes. Smash mouth, yes. But boring, yes. Uninspiring, yes. That's why nobody wants to talk about them, because they have a history of just being incredibly boring to watch. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Quarterback's just gonna, do little dinks and dunks along the way. And again, we're gonna try to make it ugly and beat you 13-10. That's what the Titans have always been. And so, when Vrabel was fired and Amy Adams Strunk and the organization made it clear, hey, not only are we getting a new coach, but we're going to bring in a new style to this entire organization. We are going to enter the year 2024 with this Titans team. We're going to bring in a guy who's going to be a progressive offensive mind, who wants to bring in receivers and throw the ball like a normal team, who wants to be exciting like a normal team, who wants to, this isn't a Vrabel thing, but I remember when John Robinson used to get asked about the analytics department, and he would say, I am the analytics department. Okay, okay, Mr. Analytics Department, what part of your analytical brain told you to trade A.J. Brown or to draft Isaiah Wilson and Caleb Farley and all of these draft picks from the 2020 and 2021 draft, of which one guy is left, and that's Dylan Radins? What part of your analytical brain told you all that was good? Okay, you pair that with Vrabel, it's a miracle we even had the good times we had. So the last 2 years they've been unwatchable. They went 7-10, gave up a huge lead in the division 2 years ago. Last year they were 6-11, one of the worst offenses you'll ever see anywhere. And so, yeah, it's a little nauseating when I then have to hear the media act like, oh, the Titans were in such a good spot with Vrabel. Oh, really? If Vrabel were still there, would anybody be picking the Titans to do anything this season? No. No. They don't even know anything about the Titans. All they knew was that Vrabel was the coach and Derrick Henry was the running back. That's all they knew. You take that away in one offseason, and so, of course, the conclusion they come to is, well, they suck. They got rid of the only things we cared about, so they suck. It's lazy. It's lazy. Lazy. So that set me off initially. The coverage of that by the media was and still continues to be unfair. Then we get into the moves that the Titans, started making in free agency. The Titans, we knew going into the offseason, they had a ton of cap room. They had a top 10 draft pick. We knew it was going to be eventful. We knew there was going to be a lot of moves made. We hoped, because of how bad the roster was and how bad the offense in particular looked, man, we hoped that there was an overhaul of this roster coming. And lo and behold, that's what we got. I hate to bore you with details because we've been talking about it all offseason, but soon as free agency starts, the Titans bring in Tony Pollard, Lloyd Cushenberry, Calvin Ridley, the top free agent wide receiver that Jacksonville tried to bring back. They tried to offer him the same amount of money Tennessee did. Don't let the media tell you that the Jaguars decided to let him walk because they didn't want to pay him. They tried to pay him. They tried desperately to bring him back. Their fans wanted to bring him back. That organization wanted to bring him back, and there were a couple of other teams looking at him too. He chose to go to the Titans, and at the very moment he chose to do that, he became washed. Tennessee's where wide receivers go to die. He just, he can't catch. He doesn't have good hands. He's not a good route runner. That's what it became as soon as he signed with the Titans. As soon as he signed with Titans. And to my friend, the Jaguars fan in the chat, I guess there are certain reports out there that are saying it, but all I know is that the report I saw, which I believe was on the NFL Network, said that they offered him the same amount and he chose to go to Tennessee. Either way, the Jags were trying to get him back. Jags were trying to bring him back, and I don't know what the Jags cap space looked like this offseason. I know the Titans had the second most available in the league, so I'm assuming they didn't have as much money to work with as the Titans. Either way, they wanted Calvin back. The Patriots were looking at him, but Titans get Calvin Ridley, Lloyd Cushenberry, Tony Pollard. Okay, Cheeto Awuzie. They sign him. They make a couple of other signings on the offensive line, linebackers, defensive tackles, things like that. Very, very active in free agency. Then they make the trade for L'Jarius Sneed, one of the best corners in the league. The Colts desperately were trying to get him. There were other teams desperately trying to trade for L'Jarius Sneed, but the Titans got him. And the very moment that L'Jarius Sneed signed with the Titans, it automatically became, injuries, even though he only averages missing a game a season. Injuries, washed. He got carried by other people on the Chiefs defense. Literally, as soon as he signed with the Titans, that's what it became. You just became irrelevant, sir. Bye. Same with Pollard, who had a 1,000-yard season last year despite being injured, but as soon as he signed with the Titans, he's washed. He's not any good. Then Tyler Boyd gets signed. So the Titans make all these moves. And have I said this a million times? Yes. Am I going to say it a million more? Yes. If the Indianapolis Colts, you know what I'm about to say if you've been listening to this podcast at all or watching the clips, if the Indianapolis Colts did all of that, if the Colts signed Calvin Ridley, if the Colts signed Tyler Boyd, if the Colts traded for L'Jarius Sneed, if the Colts brought in Cheeto Awuzie, if the Colts signed Quandre Diggs, if the Colts did all of this, yes, hopes and dreams. If the Colts did all of that, people would be falling all over themselves. You would see Nick Wright looking like Edgar Allan Poe sitting there on his show saying, "Oh, these Colts." You would see Skip Bayless on, Skip doesn't have a show anymore, so never mind. But you would see ESPN and all of these different people saying, "Oh, the Colts, look at these moves they've made. Oh my goodness, the Colts are going to be great this year." If the Dallas Cowboys did that, if you name it, if hardly any other team made those same moves, people would be going nuts about it. But the Titans did it, and it's What did Edgar Allan Poe, Nick Wright say? He said well, they'd be good in the UFL. All right. All right, Nick. All right, Nick. For the 5 people that watch your show, I'm sure that was a funny comment. So the Titans draft 800 pounds worth of dudes with their first 2 picks in the draft, addressing huge needs on their team. So they'd make all of these moves all throughout the offseason, and crickets. Crickets. And I don't expect these shows to just become the Tennessee Titans show, but just not even hardly, I mean, just irrelevant. Look at these Texans. Look at these Jaguars. Look at these Colts. And the Titans, who made all these moves, just like, oh, the little Titans with their new coach. And that's another thing. They signed Brian Callahan, who literally has football in his blood, who was a head coaching candidate for numerous teams that wanted to hire him. But when the Titans did, it became, he didn't actually call the plays in Cincinnati. He's just, I don't think he's that. We don't really know. Do you remember Undisputed, RIP? They're not even on the air anymore, I don't think. But Undisputed, well, with takes like this, it's obvious to see why they're not on the air anymore. I literally said, who the heck watches this stuff? Evidently nobody does, because they sold the show or whatever, but they were like, oh, I don't really know who he is. It's like, okay, well, that's on you then. You get paid to talk about football and you don't know who the new head coach of one of the teams is? That seems like a you problem. His dad's Bill Callahan, a legendary coach in this league who coached in the Super Bowl once, and you don't know who he is? That's a you problem. Do you see what I'm talking about? Like, it's incompetence on the part of these people, okay? But then we get to Will Levis, okay? And I will be the first to tell you, I said it last week, sometimes I feel like some of y'all, Titans fans, believe in Will Levis more than me. And I love Will, and I'm rooting for Will. But, man, I'm skeptical. I'm iffy. I'm hoping. But, like, I got a knot in my stomach because it's like, man, we saw some good things from him last year. The debut against Atlanta, obviously, but the Monday night in Miami, that was impressive. I still say his second start ever on the road at Pittsburgh with like 2 days to prepare. I thought he played well there, even in defeat. There were good things all along the way, but there were bad too. You know, holding on to the ball too long, too aggressive, taking hits he didn't need to, some turnovers. We also have to account for the fact he was playing behind an awful offensive line with no weapons on the outside except for DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins, who got a ton of disrespect going into last season from people who said he was going to be washed, he's too old, and then he had a great season. Yeah, so that just tells you right there, there's some sort of conspiracy. There's some sort of conspiracy right now. I had to restart the live stream. I'm telling you, Nick Wright looking like Edgar Allan Poe, he was watching this, and he didn't like what I had to say, and he had me shut down. I'm telling you. I'm just kidding. Only a little bit. But we're back on now. And I had that was like the most viewers I'd had in a long time right there on this podcast that were listening to me. And then somebody had me shut down. I don't even know what just happened. It said the connection was excellent, but that I was buffering. So I'm just going to pick up where I left off, dang it. Sheesh. I was doing a Titans off-season in review. Titans offseason in review, okay? So we talked about Vrabel, we talked about the media coverage of that and the free agents and the draft and the trades and all of that stuff. We talked about that. We were talking about Will Levis. Will Levis, okay? I understand. He's a question mark. Who knows? Who knows? Behind a better offensive line, with a new offensive coordinator, with all of that, who knows? But let me tell you this. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hearing about how good Anthony Richardson's going to be based on hopes and dreams. Hopes and dreams. Come on, everybody. Hopes and dreams. I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of hearing about it. Every single day I get on here and I hear people say, oh, if Anthony Richardson can stay healthy, the Colts are going to be great. What are you even basing that on? I know what you're basing it on. You're basing it on hopes and dreams. Hopes and dreams. You don't even know what Anthony Richardson can do We have seen such a small sample size from this guy, but every day. So that's where my problem comes in. If you have questions about Will Levis and you don't think he's going to be good, and you're basing it on, well, just my personal opinion, I just don't think he's going to be, that great because of this, because of that. At least that's valid. But I can't take you seriously when you hold that opinion about Will Levis and then turn right around and tell me how great Anthony Richardson is when we don't even know what this dude is. Right? So that's where you lose me. If you got questions about Will Levis, that's fine. If you got doubts about Will Levis, that's fine. But do not turn right around and tell me how great Anthony Richardson's going to be for no reason. We all know he's athletically gifted. We all know he's got size. He's whatever. He's a quarterback. But everybody just pretending as though it's a known fact. That's what I can't get on board with. So now we're here. And we're going into this season after all of this offseason of talk, and all of these people in the media who don't care. They just literally have nothing to say. They make their predictions for the AFC South, and it's like, okay, well, we all know the Titans are going to be bad. Now let's move on and talk about these other three teams. I don't know what the other three teams are going to be. I realize the Jags have talent. Trevor Lawrence got paid. The Colts, who knows? Who knows? Their secondary's not good. We know that. They're young. They're inexperienced. They didn't even take their 5th, 6th, and 7th round pick to the roster. Outside of Michael Pittman, there's not really any receivers out there that excite me. Jonathan Taylor's a question mark because it's been 3 years since he was as good as people wanted him to be. And then the Texans, who are expected to be great. And so now I have to listen to this every day. I don't know what the Titans are going to be, okay? I don't know. I'll tell you that. Even after all the moves, I can acknowledge, hey, it's a completely new coaching staff. Totally new coaching staff. Totally new team. I mean, you could probably count just off the top of your head how many guys are left from the old regime. It's not many. There's a lot of new faces on the field, on the sideline. It's all new. It's a new regime. It's a new everything. And I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen on Sunday when they take the field against the Bears. Because the Bears, I expect, will be good. I have them as a playoff team. I think the Bears will be good. They got talent. Wide receivers, DeAndre Swift, Caleb Williams. Apparently, we've already crowning him as the greatest of all time. So we'll see. But the Titans, man, it's going to be tough on Sunday. We're going to make predictions on Friday, but it's going to be tough. And this season, as they try to gel together with all of these new faces on the sideline and on the field, Brian Callahan, first-time head coaches, yes, it's a foundational year, and we're going to have to see. But just the absolute disregard for this team that we have seen, and this roster and this organization that we have seen this offseason, it tells you all you need to know. If any other team, most any other team made these same moves, the media would be going crazy over it. Because it's the Titans, Vrabel, fire him with just cause because of how bad this team has looked and desperately needing to go in a new direction. I mean, that would be reasonable for anybody else. But for the Titans, they're idiots. They're idiots for doing this. Can't even deal with it, man. Can't even deal with it. How about some playoff predictions? Now, last week on Friday, I gave my predictions for who I think is going to win every division and what I think the playoffs will look like. In the NFC, I had the Lions as the 1 seed, 49ers as the 2 seed, Eagles as the 3 seed, Falcons as the 4. I had them as the 4 division winners. And then my 3 wildcard teams in order were Packers, Rams, Bears. And then in the AFC, I actually had the Dolphins with the 1 seed. And then I had the Ravens at the 2, Chiefs at the 3, Texans at the 4. And then my 3 wildcard teams were the Bengals, the Bills, and as you will probably remember, it got out of hand, the Titans were my 7 seed at 9 and 8. So now, let's look at how I think the playoffs shake out. And this isn't going to be the same type of go crazy as the other day, but want to remind you, first of all, starting with the NFC, the Lions will have a first round bye. In my world here, I have the Lions as the 1 seed, so they have a first round bye. So let's look at the wild card matchups in the NFC that I have. Up first, you've got the Bears and the 49ers. And this is like a classic NFC matchup. Bears and 49ers. 49ers are obviously, in a lot of people's minds, the favorite to make it to the Super Bowl from the NFC. The Bears, as we've established, a great, on paper, a lot of great talent on the team. Caleb Williams, while I don't think he's going to be as good as people hope he is, I do think he will be good enough with those weapons around him, even as a rookie. They've got, a lot of potential on defense, a lot of defensive players that can come in and do well. So I think this could be interesting. But at the end of the day, 49ers versus Bears in the playoffs, I'm going with the 49ers. I just think the 49ers, at this point, they've been there, they've done that, they've got playoff experience. I mean, heck, they've got Super Bowl experience. And so I think the 49ers, I got them beating the Bears in the wild card round. Let's keep going. In the NFC, I've got the Rams going on the road to take on the Eagles. Now, the Eagles, they had a meltdown last year. They had an they totally imploded. I think they will have a better year this year. I think I had them going 12-5. I think I had the Rams going 11-6. But there's something about these Rams. People, they fly under the radar. People don't talk about them a whole lot. But I've got the Rams beating the Eagles. I've got the Rams beating the Eagles in the wild card round in Philadelphia, breaking the hearts of the Philadelphia faithful. I just have something about the Rams. I think that, honestly, and rightfully so, in the playoffs, I trust Matthew Stafford more than I do Jalen Hurts. And I think that I absolutely trust Sean McVay more than I trust Nick Sirianni. So I got the Rams beating the Eagles in the wild card round. And then we get to the final NFC wild card matchup. It's the Green Bay Packers on the road to take on the Atlanta Falcons. Packers obviously made a little run last year in the playoffs. They beat the Cowboys, really hung in there with the 49ers in the wild card round. The Falcons have not been to the playoffs in a few years. I said last week, if the Falcons don't win the NFC South, something went terribly wrong. But in this matchup of the Packers and the Falcons, I am going with the Packers because who is the quarterback for the Falcons? Kirk Cousins. And while I think he is absolutely the best quarterback in that division by far, what is kind of the belief about Kirk Cousins? He has trouble in the big games. He has trouble winning the big games. And with his history in Minnesota, many of those big games came against the Green Bay Packers because they were division rivals. And the the Falcons, a lot of young talent who don't have a lot of playoff experience. So even though I think the Falcons are absolutely headed in the right direction, in this scenario, I've got the Packers over the Falcons. So that is my wild card picks. Now we go to the divisional round of the playoffs, and we have the rematch from last year, the Packers on the road to take on the 49ers. Now, these two teams met in the divisional round last year. The Packers gave the 49ers all they could handle. The 49ers came out on top in the end. This time, I'm going to go with the Packers to beat the 49ers and knock them off, to knock off those NFC favorites. I just think the 49ers, to me, with them, it feels too good to be true. it seems too obvious that the 49ers would at least make it to the NFC title game. And because the 49ers beat the Packers just last year in the NFC divisional round, I think the Packers would come back wanting to right that wrong. And so I have got the Packers knocking off the 49ers and going to the NFC championship game. The other NFC divisional matchup, I've got the Rams traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. Stafford coming home in the playoffs. I have said I think the Rams are a sneaky, dangerous team in the NFC. But at the end of the day, I am picking the Detroit Lions to beat the Rams in a close one to get to the NFC Championship game. I'm just a big believer in the Lions. If Dan Campbell can be a little more sane in his decision-making in games, I believe in Jared Goff. I believe in the talent they've put around him. Amon-Ra St. Brown. Remember when John Robinson drafted Des Fitzpatrick over Amon-Ra St. Brown? My goodness gracious. What are you thinking? But Jameson Williams, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, that offensive line, those guys they have on defense, I'm a big believer in the Lions. So I've got the Lions beating the Rams in a close one. And so then we get to the NFC Championship game, an old NFC North battle. I've got the Lions hosting the Packers in the NFC Championship game. I think it will be a close one. I think it will come down to the wire. But ultimately, I think that the Detroit Lions win and punch their ticket to the Super Bowl. The Detroit Lions, folks, going to the Super Bowl. I think the Packers, that's a good progression for the Packers. Last year you got to the divisional round, got eliminated. This year you get to the NFC title game, get eliminated. So they're climbing the ladder with that young quarterback, Jordan Love. They're climbing that ladder. But I think just that atmosphere in Detroit, NFC Championship game. Last year, the NFC title game was in San Francisco. This NFC title game would be in Detroit. That place would be going crazy. And I got the Lions beating the Packers in the NFC title game. Let's go to the AFC. And I want to remind you, I had the Miami Dolphins as the number 1 seed. That might surprise some people. I had the Dolphins as the 1 seed, so they've got a first-round bye. And like I said last week, if the Dolphins are going to get to the Super Bowl, they're going to have a first round. They're going to have the 1 seed because they get a week off and they get to play all of their games in Miami. They cannot go on the road in the playoffs and win. They cannot go to Kansas City or Buffalo or Cincinnati or somewhere like that. They got to have people come to them if they're going to get to the Super Bowl. So I think they're going to be desperate for the 1 seed. I've got the Dolphins with a first round bye. Let's look at these AFC matchups and let's just get started with it. I have the Titans visiting the Baltimore Ravens in a wild card round. Now, last week you could have said I'm a Titans homer for even having them going to the playoffs at all. But I'm going to call it honestly, okay? If the Titans go 9-8 and get to the playoffs, this season will have been a massive success, okay? I am going to give this game, don't throw stuff at me, I'm going to give this game to the Ravens because in Baltimore, this would be Will Levis' first playoff game, Brian Callahan's first as a head coach. I think the Titans can go in there and be competitive in this scenario, but I'm going to take the Ravens, knocking the Titans out in the wild card round because while we are a Titans podcast and we love the Titans, we get fired up about the Titans, let's not be lunatics here, okay? I'm going with the Ravens, knocking the Titans off. And like I said, if the Titans go 9-8 and make the playoffs, this season will have been a success, okay? Let's keep going with these wild card matchups. This just seems destined every year. I got the Bills on the road to take on the Chiefs in the wild card round every single year. It seems like this happens. Every single year, it feels like this game is on display. And every single year, no matter what, the same team wins. I don't think this year will be any different. In this scenario, I've got the Chiefs defeating the Bills. in the wild card round. Tale as old as time. The Chiefs own the Bills, man. And in Kansas City, in this scenario, I just don't think this would be the chance for the Bills to go in and right the wrong. So I've got the Chiefs defeating the Bills in the wild card round. And then the final wild card matchup in the AFC is the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to take on the Houston Texans. A lot of people have expectations for the Texans. I am going to go with the Bengals to beat the Texans. The Bengals have been there, done that, okay? Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. I mean, these are guys that they've been to the Super Bowl, been to the AFC title game a couple times. Texans are still young overall. So going with the Bengals to go on the road and beat Houston. And it kind of, with T. Higgins likely being gone from Cincinnati after this season, just kind of feels like this is the last ride for this version of the Bengals. So I'm going with the Bengals, knocking off the Texans. Now we go to the divisional round and a rematch of last year's AFC title game. Okay. Somebody said I had lost all credibility by picking the Ravens over the Titans. Another thing is that I don't want to jinx it. Because if I come on here and I pick Titans, that's just setting myself up for disaster. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. Chiefs, Ravens in the divisional round in Baltimore. And I think this is the one I'm most hesitant on. But I am picking the Ravens to beat Chiefs. I think everybody picking the Chiefs to win it all, I get why you're doing it, but it's kind of like the 49ers. I just feel like it's too obvious. It's too obvious now. We are to the point where picking the Chiefs to win it all, although it makes sense, it's too obvious. In Baltimore, after you just broke the Ravens' heart in the AFC title game last year, I got the Ravens over the Chiefs to get to the AFC title game. And then our other AFC divisional matchup, it's the Bengals visiting the Dolphins. And even though Miami would be in Miami in the warmth, I'm still picking the Bengals to beat the Dolphins. Now, as somebody said in the chat, this is with the assumption that Joe Burrow can stay healthy. And I'm kind of doing that with everybody. That everybody will have all the guys they need by the time they get there. I'm picking the Bengals over the Dolphins. Once again, I don't trust Tua in the playoffs. I can't think of many guys other than Tyreek Hill on that Dolphins team that I would trust at this point in the playoffs. But I trust Burrow and I trust the guys on that team. I got the Bengals beating the Dolphins. So then we get to the AFC title game. It's AFC North. We got another division battle in the AFC title game. Bengals on the road to take on the Ravens in the AFC title game. And my goodness gracious, I am going with the Bengals. I'm going with the Bengals because the Bengals have kind of feel a little forgotten because Burrow got hurt. People forget this was the team that was running the AFC. They even had the Chiefs number, and we know what they did when they came to Nashville that time. I'm still not over it. I'm still not over that game. I probably need to be in therapy for that Titans-Bengals playoff game. I don't think I'm over it. I got the Bengals beating the Ravens. Trust Burrow more than Lamar in the playoffs. And I think he has more talent around him. So we get to a Super Bowl of the Detroit Lions against the Cincinnati Bengals. That's my Super Bowl matchup. And I'm going to do something that I would have thought was unthinkable. I'm going with the Detroit Lions to win the whole thing. I've got the Lions beating the Bengals in the Super Bowl and hoisting the Lombardi Trophy when it is all said and done. I've got the Lions winning it all. Wouldn't that be a sight to see? I think that city, even though they got their hearts broken in the NFC title game last year, I think that city is still so excited. They've got the team now that they are going to rally around. I am going with the Detroit Lions to win the whole dang thing. And so, we look ahead to Friday, where we will be back here on the Two Tone Talk podcast, making predictions for the weekend, talking about week 1. And I will also say this, folks. I'm excited football's back. No matter what happens, I am two-tone blue through and through. And if I were making these Super Bowl predictions with my heart, I'd pick the Titans all the way, okay? But, you know, that whole unbiased, don't be a homer thing. Hey, let's make picks real quick for Thursday and Friday. Because we'll just do picks for Thursday because I'll have another episode before the Eagles-Packers game. I will make picks for this Thursday's game between the Chiefs and the Ravens. I am going with the Ravens. I'm going with the Ravens for Thursday. Is the game... Hold on. This answer to this question might determine it. The game Thursday, is that in Baltimore or is it in Kansas City? I don't know. Is the game Thursday, is it in Baltimore or is it... Because it's got to be in Kansas City. It's got to be in Kansas City. Because, yeah, I was about to say, they're celebrating the Super Bowl. Wait a minute. I got half the people in the chat saying the game's in Kansas City, and half of you are saying it's in Baltimore. Let me go see. I feel like it's got to be in Kansas City. It is the final verdict. The game is in Kansas City. I'll go with the Chiefs then. Because I think that that stadium's going to be rocking. And although I think the Ravens have the better team, I think that the Chiefs are going to... I'm sure Taylor Swift will be there. Everybody will be excited about the Chiefs. I'll go with the Chiefs over the Ravens. I'll change my pick because it's in Kansas City. They're going to be getting rings and hanging banners and all that stuff. I want to apologize for the technical difficulties today for everybody watching on YouTube. I don't even know what happened, but I will be looking into it because that's the second time it's happened in the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to be looking into that. I appreciate everybody joining me, and I will indeed be back on Friday to make predictions for the Sunday games and the Friday games and the Monday games. It is here. It is here, and I might even have my first 32-1 power rankings of the season coming up this Friday. Everybody have a good week. Football is back. I appreciate you. It's the Two Tone Talk by God pod, staying way too high on the wins, way too low on the losses. God bless you, everybody. Bye.